evening. You're watching the main news on HKIBC. I'm Raymond Yeung. Here are tonight's top stories. The search for a second black box from an ill-fated plane is stepped up in Guangxi. Hong Kong's death rate from COVID rises to 0.6%, which health officials say is higher than other places. And Singapore dismantles more COVID curves to boost its financial hub status, but Carrie Lam is unperturbed. Authorities on the mainland are ramping up the search for a second black box following the deadly crash of a China Eastern Airlines plane on Monday. The first black box was found yesterday and sent to Beijing for analysis. Chloe Fong reports.
Mainland officials have stepped up their efforts to locate the flight data recorder, which could help determine the cause of the deadly crash of a China Eastern Airlines plane on Monday. The search area has been widened tenfold as searchers struggled in the rain and difficult mountain terrain. The first black box, the cockpit voice recorder, was found yesterday and sent to Beijing for data analysis. Although its exterior was severely damaged, the memory unit remained largely intact. Rescue teams also found human remains and aircraft wreckage. Flight MU-5735 was carrying 123 passengers and 9 crew members from the southwestern city of Kunming to Guangzhou. When it suddenly plummeted near the city of Wuzhou in Guangxi province, the China Eastern Boeing 737-800 stopped transmitting data 96 seconds into the fall. All those aboard are presumed dead. There were emotional scenes yesterday after the authorities allowed the families of those on board to visit the crash site to pay their respects. The passengers included a woman who was going to Guangzhou to meet her fiancé. Also on board were a couple who were taking their 1-year-old daughter to the provincial capital of Guangdong to treat a hearing problem. So far, 305 grief-stricken people from 56 families have arrived in Wuzhou, and China Eastern is arranging one-on-one counseling sessions for each family. Aviation safety head Zhu Tao said China will collect evidence and data before inviting the U.S. National Transportation Safety Board to take part in the investigation. Chloe Fong, HKIBC.
In Hong Kong, another 200 people who tested positive for COVID have died, taking the city's virus death toll to 0.6%, higher than other places. New infections recorded today rose slightly to just over 13,000. Macy Mock reports.
Another 201 deaths were added to the fatality list today, taking the number in the fifth COVID wave to 6,557. The death rate at 0.6% is close to that of Western countries. According to Albert Au from the Center for Health Protection, he said many elderly people died because of a low vaccination rate in their age group. The latest deaths included a 45-year-old foreign domestic helper who had no medical history and had received 2 BioNTech jabs. She developed a fever and had a poor appetite on Monday when she also started shivering. The woman became unconscious the next day and was taken to Guangxi Hospital, where she was found to be positive. Another person who died was a double-jabbed 24-year-old man who suffered from a long-term illness and late-stage cancer. He was given the oral drug Paxlovid, but his condition deteriorated. Hong Kong recorded 13,074 new COVID cases today. About 7,300 were confirmed positive through rapid antigen tests and around 5,700 via PCR tests. Au said infections remained high and there is still continuous transmission within the community. Maisie Mock, HKIBC.
The Center for Health Protection has notified police regarding a suspected case of a falsified RAT result. The finding came through random checks on people who made COVID-positive declarations. Of around 12,000 people asked to conduct nucleic acid tests, 170 returned negative results. Those saying they were negative were sent to Penny's Bay for further observation. More than 390,000 people have declared themselves positive through an online platform launched earlier this month. Chief Executive Carrie Lam says she was informed of the use of emergency powers to combat COVID. She has also asked Beijing to send more medical professionals to Hong Kong. Macy Mock again.
Chief Executive Carrie Lam has denied suggestions that she was not involved in the decision to invoke emergency regulations to speed up the arrival of mainland help in the fight against COVID. She told lawmakers yesterday that she was not aware of decisions made by Chief Secretary John Lee. But she reversed course today, saying at her daily COVID briefing that she had been informed and was involved in 3 initiatives. These included exempting mainland medical support personnel from legal requirements on registration and the construction of a hospital for emergency use in the Lok Ma Chau Loop. Lam also revealed that she has asked Beijing to send an extra team of Chinese medicine experts to Hong Kong. Some of the 400 mainland medics already in Hong Kong specialize in Chinese medicine. Their arrival increased the number of infected patients that can be taken care of in Asia World Expo from about 250 to 360. Hospital Authority Chief Executive Tony Ko said Chinese medicine is effective in relieving symptoms such as constipation and fatigue that elderly people have. Maisie Mock, HKIBC.
Singapore is taking a major step towards living with the virus by easing safety management measures, or SMMs, including reopening its borders and easing anti-COVID restrictions.
We must weigh the cost of stringent SMMs on businesses and the economy, and their impact on children needing to learn, youths yearning to interact, families seeking to bond, and communities striving to connect.
Lee said in a televised address that Singapore's battle against COVID had reached a turning point because of its high vaccination rate and a resilient health system. From next Friday, vaccinated travelers do not have to quarantine on arrival. There will be no need to wear masks outdoors from Tuesday, and larger public gatherings will be allowed. Lee said the move will help Singapore reclaim its position as a business and aviation hub. Carrie Lam brushed aside claims that Hong Kong has lost its crown as Asia's global hub to Singapore after the city-state further relaxed COVID restrictions.
Let me make it very clear that Hong Kong remains a very attractive global financial center, a very attractive global and regional aviation hub, and also a very good place to live and work. Policies and measures to be adopted by each government in combating COVID-19 epidemic differ. I don't think there is a one-size-that-fits-all.
Prison visits, which were suspended because of a COVID outbreak, resumed today, but on a limited basis. There was a long line outside the Lai Chi Kok Reception Center as relatives and friends waited to see inmates for the first time in more than a month. They are allowed up to 2 visits until April 24th. Visitors have to take a rapid antigen test before arrival and declare their negative status on a health form. Overseas, it's been exactly a month since Russia attacked Ukraine. As the fighting raged on, NATO members scattered for a slew of emergency meetings. Winner Wong reports.
The sound of sirens has become common for Ukrainians since Russia invaded their country 1 month ago. As the fighting continued, the southeastern port city of Berdyansk was up in flames. Ukraine's navy claimed it had destroyed the Orsk, a huge Russian landing ship that had been approaching through the Sea of Azov. Thousands of people from Chernihiv in the north are now streaming into Poland as the city becomes a new battleground after Russians practically emptied out Kharkiv and Mariupol. In his daily address, President Volodymyr Zelensky spoke in English in an appeal to the world.
I ask you to stand against the war, starting from March 24th, exactly 1 month after the Russian invasion. From this day and after then, show your standing. This is only the beginning for Russia on the Ukrainian land. Russia is trying to defeat the freedom of all people in Europe, of all the people in the world.
NATO leaders, meanwhile, started a series of summits to decide on their next steps. But the Western alliance is cautious over Ukraine's call for a no-fly zone.
To impose a no-fly zone means that we need to massively attack Russian air defense systems in Russia, in Belarus and in Ukraine, and also be ready to shoot down Russian planes. And then the risk for a full-fledged war between NATO and Russia will be very high, and that will cause more death and more destruction.
U.S. President Joe Biden joined his allies in Brussels for the talks. Wang, HKIBC.
Disgraced former South Korean President Park Geun-hye has left hospital 3 months after she was pardoned for a corruption scandal. Park thanked staff at the Samsung Medical Center in Seoul for taking care of her after her release from 5 years in prison. Before returning to her home in Daegu, the 70-year-old visited the grave of her father, military dictator Park Chung-hee, who was assassinated in 1979. Park Geun-hye was the first female president of South Korea and the country's first elected leader to be ousted from office. She was arrested in 2017 and sentenced a year later to 20 years in prison for bribery and abuse of power. Outgoing President Moon Jae-in pardoned her in December. The Hang Seng Index retreated from a 3-week high as tech giants dragged the benchmark down by almost 1% today. Tencent surrendered almost 6% after recording its slowest revenue growth since listing 18 years ago. Its gaming and advertising units had been hit by regulatory measures. Social network firm Weibo lost 1.7% after becoming the latest mainland firm to face the threat of losing its U.S. listing. Telecom equipment maker ZTE dropped 9% on profit-taking after surging 23% yesterday on the completion of 5 years of probation in the United States. Now let's take a look at the markets. The Hang Seng ended today down by 208 points. To the top 10 active stocks, Tencent lost $23, while Wuxi Biologics was up $4.10. AIA Insurance was down 45 cents, while the Tracker Fund was down 18 cents. To the Forex trading against the Hong Kong dollar, the euro's at 8.6, pound sterling at 10.33, and the Australian dollar at 5.86. And finally, in Europe, the London FTSE is currently up by 6 points. The Moscow stock market reopened today after a record month-long shutdown triggered by the invasion of Ukraine. Most stocks rose in early trading, but volatility was high. Investors took advantage of the finance ministry's pledge to buy shares. Analysts are waiting to see if Western sanctions would hurt the stock market. The ruble continued to climb against the US dollar after Moscow said unfriendly countries would have to use the Russian currency to buy its natural gas. Energy giant Gazprom, meanwhile, says it is still supplying gas to Europe through Ukraine. On to the weather now. Tomorrow will be cloudy with occasional showers and plenty of mist. Temperatures will range between 19 and 24 degrees. Expect a few thunderstorms over the weekend. Now let's take a look at the weather around the world. That's our main news for Thursday night. Join us for more news at 11. I'm Raymond Yeung. Good evening.